Welcome to the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday, everybody. Trying out a new start time here as we move around hours here at the ETV Community Media Center. And we have a really fun show today because the first dominoes have finally fallen. Yes, you see me wearing this Chicago Cubs shirt. Mr. Cub Ernie Banks. Well, the Cubs were able to get Cody Bellinger to sign a contract before the season started. Cody Bellinger signed a 3-year, $80 million deal with opt-outs after the first 2 years. So, best case scenario, Cody Bellinger improves upon or repeats his stellar performance from last season and gets 1 year for 30 and then gets to hit the open market again, seeking $100 to $200 million. Or Cody Bellinger ends up becoming the piss poor player that he was between his MVP season and this comeback player of the year season here in 2023. I think it's a beautiful move for Bellinger because there's high risk, high reward, as he's still going to get $80 million, even if he just turns into a pumpkin again and sucks. And if he is good again and can put 2 or 3 years in a row, as this is the new Cody Bellinger, he will easily break the $100 to $200 maybe million threshold from another team that was presumptive to sign him this offseason. Now, on the other hand, and if this broke last night, the San Francisco Giants, who said they were done this offseason, that said they were looking ahead, they were able to get Matt Chapman to sign with them. And Matt Chapman's returning to the Bay Area now, playing for the Giants. Similar structure, but 3 years, $54 million. And instead of the first 2 years being front-loaded, it decreases in value every single year, $20 million in 2024, 18, and then 16. So Matt Chapman, even if he stinks next year, you'd have to think this is going to be a 1 for 20 situation, and Matt Chapman will hit the open market again next offseason, maybe with Scott Boras not as his agent, because that is the real question here. Now that these two big hitters have fallen, there's still some really nice lower end hitters on the market. There are 2 big pitchers on the market that we will be now zeroing in on to see where they land. But Matt Chapman and Cody Bellinger, they both reportedly have turned down $100 million offers. And now they're both signing for basically 1-year prove-it deals that have some sort of cushion afterwards if they don't end up proving it in that 1 year. And Cody Bellinger, to me, like, if I stink and I can opt in for another 30 to 50 million, that makes sense. But for Matt Chapman to opt in for another 34 million, like, yeah, that's awesome money to the regular guy, but to a guy who is a platinum glove defender at third base in a league where third basemen have gotten paid significant money in AAV, it's not as exciting. So Cody Bellinger, I feel like this is a really good situation for both the Cubs and him. Matt Chapman, I feel like the interest around the league was not there, and Scott Boras did a bad job selling him, because if he really got a 5-year, $106 million offer, like has been reported from the Blue Jays, and didn't take it, and now he's taking a 1 for 20, that's really bad business for his free agent. I don't think that Matt Chapman can do anything this year for the Giants that will have him out there as a premier $100 to $200 million bat next season. He could have a really good season both ways and get, I think, close to what Bellinger just got, a 3 for 80 type situation maybe. $75-80 million for 3 years, but I don't think he's going to get a long-term commitment from anybody. And it's just really sad to see that, because he is a just joy to watch with the glove at third base. But let me know in the comments below what you think of those two signings, both for the clubs that got them at significant discounts to what they were originally reported to get, as well as those players that are basically doing deals that they can make good money for 1 year and opt out if they need to. I think it's really good that these guys are signed here on March 2nd, and that now we can zero in on getting these pitchers signed before opening day. We have had a small sample size now of spring training games, and there have been a lot of players that have had a really nice start to the spring training games. Now, I have seen a lot of home run highlights. There was a awesome Anthony Rizzo grand slam under the lights the other day, but we have to talk about these young players that we haven't seen before. And the first one is Masataka Yoshida. He was not hiding his pitches. And while a lot of people have pointed out that that might be easy to study film and adjust for hitters, the Japanese Baseball League had those same cameras and film, and they weren't able to figure him out. He was half the ERA of the average pitcher over in his past league. He was absolutely dominant. And if you look at his Baseball Savant, you look at his Stuff Plus, you look at the film from his first action against major leaguers in training, or his time in the World Baseball Classic facing a lot of major leaguers as well, he has an amazing fastball. He has really good movement on his off-speed pitches. He's going to be a true ace. This is a guy who I think is going to be in contention for a Cy Young at some point in his career. And I know he wasn't throwing perfect innings, but you got to feel really good as a Dodgers fan that you got this guy locked up in your organization for a long time. And there's been other big prospects that have been hitting so far. I know there was a lot of stuff to be made about Paul Skeens, the former number 1 overall pick against Jackson Holiday. That was fun to see those two young stars going at it. Paul Skeens has really good stuff. I think he's clearly the future of this Pirates pitching staff. They locked up Mitch Keller to an extension. So now they're hoping that Keller and Skeens can be their 1-2 punch for a stretch there in Pittsburgh. But all the talk of the town is for Nationals prospect Mr. Woods, 6'7", 200 something pounds. And he is just wiping the floor with the competition. I cannot believe that this guy was not looked at as a building block by the San Diego Padres. I understand he was sent in the Juan Soto trade, and that there are a ton of reasons to be excited. But this guy, he has Aaron Judge-like physique, and the Nationals, I think, truly have a budding superstar on their hands that isn't number 1 overall pick Dylan Cruz from last year. So congratulations to the Nationals for getting a young stud. It's just really fun to watch players like him just straight up dominate in spring training. And I know we're talking about practice, Allen Iverson, but it's been really cool to see the Nationals, a team that has zero buzz, zero vibes whatsoever, have something exciting going on. And finally, the Red Sox might just have their new center fielder, Ceddanne Rafaela, who came up at the end of last season. He had 3 walks all of last spring training. And in his first handful of games, he's already up to 5 walks. This is a guy whose approach at the plate is changing. He's making good contact and has the upside to be a Gold Glove caliber center fielder in the big leagues. So while the Red Sox season is probably going to be a mess, having Casas and Devers at the corners, having Bayo on the mound, and having true elite defense in center field, it seems like it's going to be better than I was originally hoping, and that's all I can really ask for. Now, there have been some other moves that weren't Matt Chapman and Cody Bellinger as these teams continue to try and move their sights on the regular season. What do we need? What is this team going to build around? And the Dodgers, who had just acquired Manuel Margot earlier this offseason in the Tyler Glasnow trade, I guess didn't like the look of him because Manuel Margot's tenure as a Dodger was very short. He was traded over to the Minnesota Twins, and this opened up the opportunity for the Dodgers, who have already had the offseason of offseason. Shohei Ohtani, Masataka Yoshida, I just said, trading for Tyler Glasnow, re-signing Clayton Kershaw, bringing in James Paxton as insurance. They've had an amazing offseason. But truly, the vibes, the electric factory is open in LA because they have brought back Enrique Kike Hernandez on a 1-year deal. This is a guy who can platoon with James Outman in center field, hitting against lefties. He's a guy who can give Mookie Betts and Gavin Lux breaks at second base and shortstop, and he is one of the ultimate vibes guys in all of baseball. This is a guy you want in your locker room, you want in your clubhouse. Even when he's not hitting, he gives you stellar defense at center field and a guy who's just great for the game of baseball. So I was happy to see him. He seemed to be holding out to sign with the Dodgers, and I'm happy that he was able to make it back to his preferred home. There have been some minor league deals dished out to some pretty good players as of late. So I talked about Matt Barnes, the Nationals. They don't have a lot of vibes going, but they were able to sign Matt Barnes to a minor league contract, UConn product that has some pretty decent seasons in his bag as a Boston Red Sox reliever. He's signed over there. That's a guy who I think makes the roster and could be a trade chip for the Nationals down the stretch if he can get back to his old form. He gave up a lot more walks than typical last season. The Tampa Bay Rays signed Yu Chang, former Red Sox infielder as well, a guy who could play some shortstop, has some versatility, and just bangs homers. I think that they're going to platoon him in a way that is very fun to watch. The Baltimore Orioles made 2 moves, signing Colton Wong to a minor league deal with an invite to camp, which means that maybe they're not sold on Jackson Holliday or Jordan Westburg making the opening day roster. Just kind of some insurance there to mentor them and light a fire, hopefully, under those young players that if they want to be on the opening day roster, they got to compete. And Julio Teheran, who last season was still pitching at a pretty decent level, signed to the Baltimore Orioles minor league deal. I actually like that move a lot. I think that with the Kyle Bradish injury, when you can bring in arms and not have to give up any prospects, that is the right move to do. So I actually really enjoyed seeing that move as well for the O's. I just think that Mike Clevenger and Michael Lorenzen are still out there, and you're going to have to give up prospects for those guys in 6 months. Why not sign one of them now? I guess they're just really believing in Swerve and Cole Irvin, who has also looked good so far this spring. And Brandon Crawford. This move really surprised me. The San Francisco Giants, who signed Jung Ho Park this offseason, they have some young guys coming up in the middle infield. Marco Luciano looks to be their possible future at shortstop. Brandon Crawford was not brought back. This is a guy who played his entire career so far with the San Francisco Giants, a guy who's won Gold Gloves at shortstop and a very good hitter. He signs a 1-year deal with the St. Louis Cardinals, who currently are without Tommy Edman. He's out with injury. They are hoping that he can mentor Mason Wynn, who's the future of the shortstop position in St. Louis. And for the meantime, having Nolan Arenado and Brandon Crawford on the same side of an infield, that's about as good of protection as you can have for a pitching staff that really struggled last year as possible. I'm excited for Mason Wynn to be able to learn from both of those perennial Gold Glove players. And Brandon Crawford, I'm upset that you weren't able to spend your entire career in San Francisco, but as someone who follows the Cardinals as his National League team, those fans are going to wrap their arms around you. They're going to be really excited. They're going to appreciate you. So I think that's a really good home for Brandon Crawford. And the Red Sox, yet again, they signed CJ Cron to a minor league deal. He's someone that isn't going to be Justin Turner level production, but could fill a similar role on the roster if Bobby Dahlbeck doesn't make the team. And the Garrett Cooper situation, which I was surprised to see he signed with the Cubs to a minor league deal. I thought he was going to get a major league contract for somebody. Garrett Cooper, kind of the same situation as CJ Cron. He's trying to make the team as a platoon first baseman, and he has the hitting experience to do so, but it will be interesting to see if he ends up actually making the team. Right now, based off the deals that we were seeing from Cody Bellinger and Matt Chapman, the rumors around Snell are that he's likely going to have to take a shorter term, higher AAV deal. So expect him to be more in the Cody Bellinger park, where he signs like a 3-year, $100 million deal with opt-outs after the first 2 years, something like that. As for Jordan Montgomery, the Red Sox continue to be the only team linked to him. And it scares me a lot because the Red Sox, I've been crying from the rooftop all offseason long that they need pitching. All they signed was Lucas Giolito. I understand the biggest addition to the pitching staff has really been Andrew Bailey, having him and Craig Breslow in the organization, trying to work with all the young pitching talent that is in the Red Sox system is going to pay dividends, but you need innings in the big leagues. And Jordan Montgomery has shown over the last 3 years that he's a true innings guy that can step up in the big moments, as he did during the Texas Rangers World Series run last postseason. Sign the guy. Because if you're the only team in the race and these guys are starting to cave, they're willing to negotiate, they're willing to come down, and you don't end up signing him, it's going to be an epic failure because you didn't deserve him in the first place. He clearly doesn't mind pitching in Boston for a team that might have a chance of the wild card if everything hits. And you're not dishing out the money. I think any Red Sox fan would say if we have to trade Kenley Jansen after signing Jordan Montgomery, that's a very good trade for this team going forward. You can move Garrett Whitlock into that closing, relieving role. Maybe Tanner Houck builds into a closer, but there are options where you can get rid of Kenley Jansen's contract, add Jordan Montgomery's, and not really go up near the luxury tax threshold all that much more. So I hope the Red Sox get it done. I have a feeling that another team's going to come in, kind of like the Giants said they were done, and they signed Matt Chapman, a team that seems to be tapped out, comes in and signs Jordan Montgomery. Maybe it's the Cubs, maybe it's the Phillies, maybe it's the Giants. There's teams out there that could use a pitcher like Jordan Montgomery. I'd say 20 out of the 30 major league teams could use him. So it'll be interesting to see where these two stud pitchers land. I think Clevenger and Lorenzen will kind of find homes very shortly after they do, because they're kind of just waiting at this point for the big guns to fall and see who misses out, who's willing to throw them a 1 for 8 or a 2 for 12 type of situation. So we'll see what ends up happening with the rest of the arms that are out there, but that's where the eyes are for me. JD Martinez turned down a deal with the Giants, supposedly, and I don't know where he's going to sign then. I don't know what team he's holding out for, what team thinks has interest, what team's told him he has interest that he's holding out for. But at this point, he doesn't play defense. He's a good hitter, very good hitter. I don't know where he's going to find a home. It's really sad because he's coming off a good season, but part of the universal DH is that there's more opportunities for him to work. But part of the universal DH is with all these teams platooning and trying to move things around and give people off days and having injuries, is not every team has an everyday DH spot open. So JD Martinez needs to find a home soon, and I hope he does because he's a very good hitter. But I do think the pitchers are going to be where everybody's eyes are now the rest of the way this offseason. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we have to throw it back down the third base line to this day in baseball history and reminisce in the rich history that baseball has. Baseball history is American history. And I have to say, March 2nd, I could have done another Hall of Fame birthday. There wasn't a lot of huge events in the last couple centuries. There were some from the 1800s that were kind of big. But it was only fitting because I've told this story when Tim Wakefield passed away, but I had a very severe concussion playing Division III college football, and getting that sport that was a big outlet for me taken away was an adjustment. And I had the opportunity to meet Tim Wakefield up in Massachusetts while I was in college. I wasn't able to go to my team's football game and travel with the team, so I decided to go meet Tim Wakefield at a free signing instead. And he's someone that went through a lot of adversity in his career in life and was super kind to everybody he met. He gave me great advice. He talked to me like a true person, not just a fan. And it's really stuck with me for a long time and probably will for the rest of my life. He was such a great guy in the city of Boston. And his other half, Stacey Wakefield, unfortunately passed away this week. I feel incredible pain and loss for not only the Wakefield family, those children who no longer have both parents, but as well as the Boston community that was completely blessed to have the Wakefields continually donating and supporting causes and putting on fundraisers and just being true humanitarians. So on this date in 2010, many of you might remember the name Eri Yoshida. On this day, Eri Yoshida, who was only 18 at the time, traveled to Fort Myers spring training for the Boston Red Sox and met her hero, her baseball inspiration, Tim Wakefield. Yoshida said, "I truly have never been this happy. It really feels like a dream to meet him." Yoshida, she became the first professional baseball player in the Japan Nippon League at 16 years old, playing against men. Knuckleball pitcher who was inspired by seeing Tim Wakefield not have to have a lot of power, but being able to fool professional hitters. Yoshida ended up later playing in the States for the Chico Independent League team. And as recently as last year, made a comeback in the New York League at 31 years old. She's still out there coaching baseball, trying to make it as a career. And her baseball jersey from Nippon, as well as her first professional game in the United States, are in the Cooperstown Museum library of memorabilia of baseball history. It was a real good feel-good moment. I'm going to leave a link to her story and her meeting Tim in the description of this video after it's posted. And I think it truly shows what a great person Tim Wakefield is, what kind of impact he had on people, not just in the Boston area, but all over the game of baseball, trying to keep the fraternity of knuckleballers alive, trying to just pass it forward and be a good teammate, be a good man, be a good husband, be a good father. Rest in peace, Stacey Wakefield. You and Tim are together again. Thank you. And I'm not trying to end things on a bitter note. So as you can see here on the setup, there's a Joey Votto McFarland figure on the set today. And it's because Joey Votto has been making a lot of people sad with his social media videos, talking about he wishes he got spring training or, oh, this sucks. He's doing some really corny videos that some people find funny. I'm not finding so funny. I think it's sad that Joey Votto does not currently have a job in the major leagues. Now, we just talked about JD Martinez's struggles to find a team as a right-handed hitter, DH only. Now, Joey Votto could play the field a little bit if needed, but he's likely going to be in that Garrett Cooper, CJ Cron, first base platoon DH situation for the 2024 season. Joey Votto last season in 208 at-bats hit 14 home runs and hit over the Mendoza line, coming back from an injury. The Canadian product is a future Hall of Famer. 64.4 career WAR, broke the rule of 2,000 hits, 2,135 hits, solid power numbers, 356 career home runs, a 294 career hitter, a guy that scored over 1,100 runs and driven in over 1,100 as well. And I think it's important because you think, oh, slugging first baseman, his strikeout numbers are ridiculous. He led the league in walks 4 times and was over 105 and only has about 250 hits, 250 strikeouts more than walks in his major league career as a slugging first baseman who's led the league on base percentage 7 times. He's truly an amazing hitter that has followed the Ted Williams book of hitting to a T, to a successful career in baseball life. A guy who's gotten MVP votes in 9 different seasons, including winning the 2010 NL MVP, where he led the league with a 424 on base, 600 slugging, and 1024 OPS to go along with a 324 average, 37 home runs, and 113 RBIs. Now, Joey Votto is not that player anymore. Absolutely. But Joey Votto's value isn't just about his current production, which is still going to be slightly above league average. He had a OPS plus last year of just that league average. It's because Joey Votto analyzes the game differently. He truly breaks down pitchers in the strike zone in a science. And him being able to help your team as basically a player coach, a guy that you can put in the lineup, great vibes, great for the fan bases. I don't know why teams weren't lining up to sign Joey Votto right after the big fish fell, right after Ohtani and Yoshida were out of the market, the big pitcher, the big hitter. Joey Votto would have been one of my priorities. And it's just really sad that he has not been signed. Joseph Daniel Votto does not deserve to go out like this. I'm getting on my Nolan Arenado soapbox. When Albert Pujols was released by the Angels, Nolan Arenado came out in his press conference and said that Albert Pujols, I love you. I hope your career doesn't end like this. You're my favorite player. Joey Votto, you're not my favorite player, but I love you. You've been great for the game of baseball. Somebody sign Joseph Daniel Votto, please. Now, if you enjoyed the show, I appreciate it. Those of you that joined me at this different time, I appreciate you being in the chat, watching, spending part of your Saturday with me. For more baseball reaction and opinions, you can follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at DominicMana44. I hope you guys have a great week of spring training. I hope we get to talk about where Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery sign next episode. And I'll catch you guys next Solo Shot Saturday. Have a blessed one, guys. Peace.